Pretty fancy camera up there.
So we're gonna be installing those a lot quicker. We have a couple different manufacturers that we're using. First off, what kind of windows are out there? Let's get started on the basics.
Hanson, or not Hanson, wall side, right?
So that's our competition, right?
Is that what you're
Wall
asking
side,
about?
Hanson's.
Fiberglass.
Yeah, like what kind of materials are you using?
Oh,
So what kind of
vinyl,
windows are out there? We
wood.
got vinyl,
fiberglass, wood.
wood,
Wood,
fiberglass.
Fiberglass.
Where's Nico?
Metal.
Doctors?
When you say metal, what kind of metal?
Metal around the frame at all?
Aluminum. Metal is steel. That's steel as well. What other kind?
There's clad.
Okay, what kind of clad?
Or if you want, you can mix pretty much anything, right? Fiberglass and wood. You know, if you wanted the wood look on your
So you got aluminum clad.
aluminum clad, vinyl clad.
Okay, and the clad part is the wood. So these are vinyl on the outside, wood on the inside. Aluminum on the outside, wood on the inside. Steel, aluminum, fiberglass, wood, and vinyl. Now, what are the pros and cons of vinyl?
Not as strong, cost effective.
Lightweight.
So the pros are, what'd you say?
Cost effective.
Money, lightweight. What else?
They're flexible. With house.
What else with vinyl windows? Okay, well, let's jump down to wood. Well, what's the bad thing about vinyl?
It
Is there a
can,
downside to it?
it can be cheap. It can be very cheap.
Cheap as
Like bowing after 2 years, the bottom sash can start bowing.
Not as strong.
Bowling
Okay.
grill.
Color starts fading. Seals will break sometimes just as quick.
I thought vinyl doesn't fade.
It can.
We'll touch on all of those aspects. What about wood? What's some pros about wood?
Looks nice.
Okay, cosmetics.
It's a great insulator.
Dave, I gotta answer this.
It's nasty maybe? I don't know if they're any better.
Good morning.
No,
Durable.
you have to deal
Oh,
rot
I
and
mean, I can add cons for wood,
Okay, what's cons?
like the upkeep, maintenance.
rot. Cost.
Cause wood ones are usually painted, right?
Painted or stained.
Painted or stained.
What about fiberglass?
Very strong. Durable. It's a fairly good insulator.
So strong the truck can run over it.
Medium insulator. What's the downside?
I-
Cost.
It can actually look like vinyl, so it's easy to bait and switch. Because I've seen it.
Okay.
Ultra.
Is it cheaper than vinyl? No.
No, that's probably the most expensive. Well, between wood and fiberglass.
What about aluminum?
Oh,
Okay, so strong.
cheap.
What's the downside?
Durable insulator. Frames can bend, and the seal go
I
on.
don't know, I feel like oxidation too.
I was thinking about the right way of wording it. That's what oxidizes. Steel?
Stronger than aluminum, but it's still a bad insulator. Same thing, it'll oxidize.
aluminum clad?
Same pros and cons of the aluminum, pretty much.
Well, it's a wood window, but it's clad with, so I mean, it had the same pros and cons of wood, except that cladding can fall this color and things like that, as far as I know.
The aluminum on the outside, a tree branch or something hits it, it could dent, right? Maintenance of the wood, cosmetically it looks good. Insulates. Vinyl clad, same type of thing.
Those aluminum and steel, all those metal ones will start to, after, 10 years or so, they'll be really hard to open.
This insulates. Durable. Maintenance free. Free, not fee. Alright, so that in a nutshell is just kind of the different products that are out there. What the pros and cons to them are. Vinyl is gonna be your least expensive route. Okay, the most economical route of going about it. Alright, that's what we're typically trying to push. Alright, we're not gonna turn down the leads for the other ones. Aluminum windows, steel windows are pretty much, those are obsolete. They don't even really make those anymore. But those are windows that you're gonna be going and tearing out. St. Clair Shores has a lot of old aluminum windows or old steel. You go to Detroit and stuff, you're gonna have a lot of those old. Let me get that made in here. Alright, so you're gonna have, those are what you're gonna be tearing out. They are very strong and durable. Okay, but the problem is they're conductors. Alright, they're not the most energy efficient. You mentioned oxidizing and stuff. In the wintertime, they'll freeze over. So you have a tough time opening and closing them because they'll be frozen. Also too, when you get the moisture on those windows, okay, it turns into mold. You can actually scrape the mold and stuff off of the windows, and then they become very rough to open and close because the tracks and stuff are so full of all of the shit and the gook that's in there. Alright, so those ones are basically what we're gonna be pulling out. Alright, these other ones are the ones that are on the market. Alright, vinyl is again gonna be your least expensive route. It's like the old, telephones and stuff like that, 100% pure PVC. You remember how many times those old wall phones that would fall off and drop and just smash into the ground and stuff, and they would never break or chip or anything? That's 100% pure PVC. So it has the strength and the durability of that. It doesn't conduct. So like a refrigerator, for instance, you got inside of the refrigerator, it's freezing cold, on the outside it's room temperature. You can put your hand on the outside of the fridge, you're not gonna feel that difference. All right, same type of thing with your vinyl window. You put your hand on your vinyl framing, you're not gonna feel that temperature difference even though it's 20 degrees outside. It doesn't allow that to transfer through, all right? On the cheaper side, they do flex a little bit with the opening and stuff with the expansion contraction, so that can help out. But they're not the strongest thing in the world. That's the big knock on them. You see like fiberglass windows or Magic, that they're advertising the fact that, you can drive a truck over a fiberglass window. And the vinyl ones are very weak and they bow and everything else. So that's the knock on it. Yes, they can flex. You may have seen like patio doors, the larger openings, or like a picture window up front where the middle might be sagging a little bit. Okay, many times that's because they use the old recycled material, kind of like they use with the siding, the grayback. It's 60% vinyl, it's 40% recycled plastics. So your old Barbie dolls, Ken dolls, pop bottles, all mixed in to make the rest of that vinyl up. When they mix all of that stuff together, it comes out in a grayish tint. That's why they call it your siding grayback. All right, I was in a customer's house the other day down in Warren at 14 and Ryan. All right, and they had windows from 1986 that were in there, vinyl windows. And you can tell usually what age that they're in, because if you look at the glass that's in between the two pieces, there's a little aluminum spacer bar. And a lot of times you'll see an imprint of 2 digits. I mean, that's usually the age that it was made. 86 happened to be that one. Wall side will actually have printed in there wall side on their strip. So you can see wall side and 02 and know that it's a wall side window or whatever. So you can recognize a lot of times you look at that spacer bar. But they were from 1986, and I could tell that they were the old recycled vinyl, because if you look at the framing of them inside of the frame, like the cavity that the window would slide back and forth in, had like a slight bluish tint to it. You guys ever seen like a bluish or yellowish tint to a vinyl window before in the framing? Some of you guys are shaking your head.
The yellow.
A little bit of the yellow tint. What happens is when they mix all that recycled shit together, it comes out in that grayish color. So what they do is they blue or bleach the vinyl. If you notice your laundry detergents, your bleaches and stuff usually have a bluish tint to them, or that yellowish tint. So they shock the hell out of it, turn it brighter than white blue. If you look at some paper and stuff, sometimes you can tell if you put like a real piece of paper up to it, and then like the piece of paper he's got in his hand there, okay, if it's a little thinner grade, it's recycled, it'll have like a bluish tint if it was right next to something white. You can actually really identify it. It's no different with the vinyl. They blue it or bleach it so much that it appears whiter than white. It's almost like that stark white type of look. All right. But what happens is when the sun's been kicking on it for so many years, that bluing or bleaching material starts to come out to the edge or to the end of the vinyl, and that's where you're seeing a little bit of the discoloring. With that, the material is a lot weaker. When you use a lot of the recycled material, you have to use a lot of filler. Same thing with the siding. Well, the cheapest filler out there you can find is water. When it gets below 32 degrees, what happens to water? It freezes. So what happens is then your vinyl framing starts to freeze. It becomes very brittle, and that's where you've seen like some of this older, the old windows where they would crack and things, and they weren't the strongest material in the world, and that's why it kind of had a bad knock on it, a bad rep. But that was the recycled stuff. All right, when you get into that 100% pure PVC, again, it's like that telephone. No matter how many times you dropped it or whatever, it's not going to break, chip, crack, dent, or do any of that. So those are your lower grades when you're getting into like distinguishing the different types of vinyl windows that are out there, and people are like completely against vinyl. You can go into that story where they use the old vinyl windows, the old recycled material, and you can have some of those issues. All right, if we're guaranteeing it, and we'll show our guarantee and stuff like that, we got to make sure we're using the good stuff. But the knock on it is it's not very strong. All right, so you'll see as we go through what we do in that end. Even if you upgrade to the better material, okay, it's still not the strongest stuff in the world. It can have some bowing and sagging in it. The pitch on it basically is coming through, like you take out this window, Steve, right? It's a big, 6 foot wide window, roughly, all right, by 3.5 feet tall. So you take out that window. What happens to that opening? Does that wall cave in?
No.
Why not?
I don't know the exact reason, but it should be between two.
There's headers and stuff like that. Right?
Yeah, it's supported. You got your buck, right? Your framing of it, everything around there. Okay, so what I'm getting at is if you pull out the window, the wall's not going to cave in. You don't need your window to provide strength for you. So you can upgrade, get this huge, great fiberglass window that you can fucking drive a truck over, but at the end of the day, you're not relying on that frame to hold the structure of your wall. Does that make sense? So it's kind of overkill. All right, it's made out of fiberglass. What car is also made out of fiberglass?
Corvette.
Corvette, right? Owens Corning. Now, when you're looking for a car, is Corvette on the higher end of the price spectrum or the lower end of the price spectrum?
Higher.
The higher. It's the materials and stuff that are being used. So if you're making a window out of the same material you're making a Corvette out of, do you think that's going to be on the higher end of the price spectrum or the lower end?
Higher.
Okay? Have that conversation with your customer. Ask them those questions. I'm not telling you, the customer, that a fiberglass window is going to be more expensive. You just told me it's going to be more expensive. And I've completely eliminated it. Okay? Again, we don't need that strength, the extra strength that the fiberglass provides, because again, you're pulling it out. All right? Look at that window there, Steve. What makes up 90% of it? What are you looking at?
Glass.
Glass. 90% of your window is glass. That's the heart of the window. So it's safe to say when you're shopping for an efficient window, you're shopping for an efficient glass, aren't you?
Yeah.
Okay. The frame and all of that stuff matter, but it's only 10% of what the actual window consists of. So is fiberglass a better insulator than vinyl? Honestly, I'm not quite sure. I know they're pretty close. But for someone to say, oh, it's a lot more energy efficient, it doesn't matter. If I'm going to pull out the same glass, clear double pane glass, and put it in a brand new souped up fiberglass frame, is it really going to be more energy efficient for you? It's the same glass. And that's where our pitch is designed, is to really promote the glass. Yes, the frame and all of that matter. You need to know the differences between some of the frames. But at the end of the day, if the fiberglass, the only kind of glass you can get is clear or low E glass, you can't even get into the triple pane, is it really worth upgrading your windows at that point? Okay, and that's what you really need to slam down into the customer's head. All right, you can get into wood framing. Well, you got all the problems with it. It's maintenance. All right, the outside that we're replacing them. You go into Macomb Township or whatever, all of the fucking windows, the sills where the snow sits in, it just absorbs all of that, starts to rot out. You can take your pen, poke big ass holes in it and things. Not to mention now that water's leaking into your wall, causing interior damage and stuff like that. The whole framing and buck. So you have the maintenance. Otherwise, you have to paint or stain it every couple years. Recaulk it, making sure that the water's not getting inside. It's a pain in the fucking ass. All right, then it gets painted shut. You have to worry about those issues and things. So yes, it does look nice. It's more of an elegant look on the inside. But still, what if you leave your window open a crack and it starts to rain? Now that water gets in there. We have the humidity here in Michigan. What happens to when wood and moisture? Starts to swell, it starts to get soft. So now your window frame starts to swell. Now it doesn't close properly, the locks don't match up properly and everything else. There's a lot of issues and stuff that can come with that. Yeah, it looks beautiful, alright, but you have those issues. Yeah, you're hitting the camera, bro.
Oh, nice.
Okay,
It's expensive.
so that's where you can get into, it's not in here. You can get into the different colors. Where we can give you some of the elegance of the wood, the look of the wood, but this is still vinyl. So you wouldn't have any of the maintenance of it. If you left your window open or cracked, it started to rain or whatever, okay, you just wipe it with a damp rag. That's one of the beautiful things about vinyl, getting into vinyl windows, is there's no maintenance to it. You pick the color that you want, it is what it is. You don't have to worry about painting, staining it, scraping it, doing any of that stuff, okay? So those are a couple options when it comes to that. Your aluminum cladding, so basically it's a wood window and it's wrapped in aluminum on the exterior. All right, to protect the wood so you don't have any problems. The problem is aluminum, it can dent and ding. Anything that touches it, because it's wrapping the aluminum, sometimes if the wood starts to swell and you start to close that casement, now that aluminum catches on the framing and it starts to rip that back and pull the wood away and or the aluminum away. So you still have the problems with that. You still have to maintain it on the inside with the swelling, with the sun kicking down and beating that wood to pieces, even if it's on the interior. So those are some of the issues. Plus, when you're getting into the wood, you're talking a lot of bigger expenses. Okay, the aluminum cladding wood windows are usually your Andersons. Okay, we can get there are different types of manufacturers, but that's the big name out there is Andersons. The vinyl cladded, that's usually your pellets.
What's the difference between Anderson and Renewal by Anderson?
Andersons are like more your new construction, and then the manufacturer. Renewal by Anderson is like your replacement home improvement company. Yep, and they're expensive too.
No.
You know, there's subcontractors that are just going off the name, pretty much. But it comes with a very high price tag. We can get Andersons, we can get Pellas in it. But again, you know, you don't want to lose that lead. You don't want to lose that customer by saying, no, I don't do it. I don't do it. All right? Your pitch is designed to steer them away from getting into those because you have the maintenance. Yeah, I can get you a pellet if you want to spend $3,000 a window. I have no problem. You ran into that getting some of them priced out and shit like that. They're fucking expensive. Okay? And you have the problems with them. You don't have the type of guarantee that we can give you with the Flyjet. The glass and stuff, I can't get triple pane in an Anderson window. It's not available. So you're going to spend all that money on the framing and how it looks, but you're going to sacrifice all that efficiency. You got 40 windows, man. That house you just went to. Okay? That thing's fucking huge. That's a lot of glass.
Yeah.
You know, put in the same type of window you have in there now, the same glass, but just spruce up what the look of it is, doesn't make a whole bunch of sense. Ideally do both. You know, get the look that you're looking for, get into something like this. Okay, looks sharp, and then you have the energy efficiency. So, again, we're trying to steer them into this. We're not going to turn down a phone call when they say, hey, do you do fiberglass windows? Yes, we do. Okay, I'm going to price that as package 4, and I'm going to double it just like I do my roofing package, the metal roof. Once they see the price, they're going, oh shit, I don't want it. But when they see that price and they say, I don't want a fiberglass window, they're also saying, I don't want it from you and I don't want it from them. I don't want it from Magic Windows, so they're not going to worry about trying to shop it. Once they see that, now they're focused, okay, I need a vinyl window. We put some reinforcements inside of our vinyl, you'll see, to give it that extra strength and everything else. Does it really provide extra strength that really is needed, like what we were talking about? No, it's for the show, in all honesty. You know, our pitch is you pull that window up, the thing doesn't cave in. I don't need my window to support it, but it's a good selling feature. You know, it does help to keep it in square and everything else. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't help, but I mean, is it the end of, you know, beat all? And no. Again, it's not going to cave in on you, but it helps out with the pitch. All right. Any questions on that?
What are people's thought processes when they go with aluminum and vinyl clad? Like, what's the selling point for them?
The wood on the inside.
Okay.
That's what they're looking at. They don't want a wood window, wood inside, wood outside, because of the maintenance and the weathering and stuff that'll destroy the outside. So they figure I'll have the outside protected and get into, I'll cover it with the aluminum or do the vinyl cladding on it.
Right.
So they don't have the maintenance, and those come in a couple different colors and all that shit. The problem is, again, they want that wood look on the inside, but they don't want the maintenance. But aluminum can dent and ding. It comes with that high price tag. You still have the maintenance of the wood. Not to mention the core of that window is still wood. And with the humidity here in Michigan, that's where it can cause problems and still warp and swell. So unfortunately, it's not the best stuff for it. It's elegant. It looks sharp. It looks fucking nice. Other than the looks, though, it doesn't really provide much for you that you can't get out of a vinyl. So if you can get into this, again, you have the wood grain for it, everything else, but this is a vinyl. Now, if you have dogs with huge fucking claws on them or cats or something like this. It's kind of like a contact paper. Okay? I mean, a heavy duty one, don't get me wrong, but if they got you take a knife to this shit, yes, it can cut. Alright, so, I mean, other than that though, but it is very, very durable and lasting. You still give a guarantee on it. Alright? Alright, any questions on that stuff?
I found that, like, I went to a couple of appointments and, what kind of windows do you offer? I say mainly vinyl. They're like, vinyl's crap. And then they'll say vinyl's crap because more than likely they've gotten windows before and they either got it through wall side or what have you. So they're getting a different type of vinyl window where they start to bow and sag after 5 years.
Well, the problem is how you worded it. He's already shut you down mentally. Because the first thing you said is vinyl, and in his mind, he doesn't like vinyl, and vinyl's crap. So you got to answer that question a little bit differently because you want to keep them so.
100%
I tell them,
What's that?
100% PVC.
No,
normally
we're
it's on
not
the
a manufacturer,
plans.
so we're not locked into one type of window. I can get you whatever type of windows out there on the market, and the best one for your situation. I can get you anywhere from a vinyl to a wood to a fiberglass and everything in between to any of the claddings. What were you looking for? But the minute you say vinyl, if he's in his mind, I don't fucking want vinyl because I've had a bad experience with him, he's not listening to anything else you say. Well, I can get you Anderson too. You're not an expert at Anderson anymore. You know, in his mind. So find out, ask him questions. What are you looking for? Oh, well, I hate vinyl. I had them in my, well, what happened to them? Now you can start having them relive that story, build up the pain, and then now, well, they were sagging, and then I couldn't open and close them, and they turned this yellowish color, and now it's purple. That's why we reinforce them now. That's why we use 100% vinyl versus the other stuff. I mean, I'll get you the fiberglass price, everything else, but this vinyl window we use is a hell of a lot different than the one you had before. You know, the glass was terrible, and show them, you know, the wall side thing if that's what the case was. But yeah, just be careful on something like that. I mean, yeah, we're pushing our vinyl window, don't get me wrong. What's in this case in that sunrise window, however, you don't want to kill them up front. That's what your pitch is designed to do, to show, hey, we can offer any of those windows. Which one do you want? And after your presentation, they should be steering themselves into the line.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
So you just got to be careful on some of that wording out. Now, real quick, some of the window terminology. Okay, so you guys don't look like dumbasses in there when they're talking about a casement. Ryan, you know what a casement window is?
Oh, is that the one that rotates out or no?
Yes.
Okay.
So casement, usually a one. Sometimes you have a twin casement, two of them. Okay, those are cranks. Casements are the crank windows. All right, a lot of times people don't like them because the cranks and stuff on them, the handles will break. They're a pain in the ass. They always get like ripped off of the wall and shit like that. Also, too, typically the older ones in like the builders' houses and stuff have the one lock on it, but it just locks it in the spot. So you could actually take the top of the window and pry it away. Okay, the casements that we use it's one lock on it, but it controls the whole arm that locks the whole unit, so you can't just pry it up. It's like a triggering mechanism inside of it. So that's one of the things that we use. But the casements are the cranks. Okay, you can get a single casement, a double casement. You can get this where one opens or both of them open, or neither one of them open. You can get into a triple casement or even a quad casement, which are just, again, that would crank, that would be solid. You could have them all individually crank out. So you're kind of custom designing how that customer wants it. The more moving parts you have, the more money it's going to be. Also, too, the more moving parts you got, the more chance of things failing. So, you know, just keep that in mind as well. All right? Slider windows. Those go side to side. Okay? When both of these pieces move, it's called a double slider. Double units are moving. If only one side slides back and forth, it's called a single slider. Same thing with a hung window. You got your double hung, where both of them move, and then you got your single hung, where just this one goes. Okay? So you got your single versus your double. Eventually, when we get back into sunrise, I think we're going to offer the singles exclusively. Everybody else advertises the double sliders, the double hungs. Singles, there's a nice little pitch on it and stuff like that, but number one, it's a little bit cheaper for us, and it's something different than what everybody else is offering. You know, instead of saying, oh yeah, we got the same shit as them, it kind of puts us on a league of our own at that point. But hung windows go up and down, the slider windows go side to side. So these are typically, like the samples and stuff that you got, those are typically lift out sliders, so you would slide it over to one side, that whole unit, sash, would come out for cleaning purposes, and the other one you could do the same on. There are windows kind of like a double hung, you know how the double hungs tilt in for cleaning purposes? It's basically a double hung on its side, where they would slide back and forth, and then you push the buttons and it tilt in like a book. So those are tilt-in sliders. So you might hear that terminology. Customer might ask you, you offer tilt-in slides. Yes, we can through Sunrise. They are available. We don't really push it. I'll get that pitch more designed down when we lock in specifically what we're getting from Sunrise. Before COVID hit, the plan was with Sunrise. They're Michigan made, okay, in Temperance, Michigan, and we have the ability to basically design our own brand, make our own brand or line of whatever we choose out of Sunrise. So we can specifically say Rock Solid is manufacturing this window. Okay, so that's why I'm saying we can jump into the single sliders or the single hungs versus the double, and then with the triple pane glass and all that stuff, we can custom design it to our needs and really pitch it as our window. Whether we might choose the tilt and slide, I don't know exactly which way we're going to go yet. So, but they do offer everything. They're the manufacturer. Their lead time is getting a lot better. You guys will also see. I don't know if all of you have seen it, but the estimation online, it goes through. You type in, click a couple buttons, pick the picture of the window that you want. It has a bunch of pictures like this, and you say, okay, I want this, and then you type in the size, and then it actually basically a couple options on like the glass type and shit like that. So it's real easy, and you just put in your quantity and all of that. And then it's cool too, because then you can print out the whole thing, and it shows a complete breakdown for the customer, what the window looks like, how it opens, all of the different options on it and shit. So it's not like, well, I didn't know if that one, like you had that one window where it was sliders and we had to convert them to mulled units going up and down. He sold a big job, a big window like this, okay, and it was like this original. Or no, they were double casements. It was so big. What he sold it as, we're going to put in some sliders there. No, you didn't. You sold it as we were going to put in a big hung.
No, it was,
But the problem was it was too wide to put in one large hung.
no.
And just stretch it because it was too wide. It was like this size. So what we had to do is put basically two of these and mull it together. We put in two double hungs there. Okay, it'll show that picture so the customer is not trying to understand what you're putting in. They can physically see it and go, okay, now I see it's one unit, one opening, but we're actually putting in two separate windows there. All right, so it's a nice little program that we got going on. Just like the hover for the roofing, they can see it. It's not necessarily a 3D model, but actually as you're pulling it up, you can view like the inside and outside, so to show the colors. So you can make sure that it's a two-tone window. You put in grids in it, it'll put in the grids for you and all that good shit. So you got your hungs. Your hungs typically will go on openings that are taller than they are wide. Okay, if it's wider than it is tall, that's where you usually go with the side-by-side slider. Depending on the size, we could potentially turn that window into one big double slide window. You'll have to check your specs. The program won't allow you or give you a price on this type of window if it won't fit there. If it's too large of an opening and we have to go to something else, it'll open it up for you, okay? If you can't put in a slider there, you put in what they call an end vent slider. EVS. Okay, it's a picture window look. This end would slide in, this end would slide in. This right here, what you're looking at is a 25%, 50, 25%, quarter, half quarter. You could also get an end vent slider where they're all thirds. You've seen those where they're all equal? My picture was right. Okay, like in a lot of St. Clair Shores has those, the aluminum ones where they're broken down into third sections. Okay, there's no price difference between a third, and a quarter, half quarter. It's just simple preference. This gives you more of the look of a flat bay window because the window or the middle pane is a lot larger than the ends on the side. But these would slide in. You could do casements on the ends on something like this too, which would be more expensive than it being a slider. So the end could crank out and still have that configuration on either one of them. But those are your picture windows. Those are usually for the front of the house or like something looking out of a great room in the back, something of that sort. Okay. Then you have your bays and bow windows. Your bays and bow windows. These are like a piece of furniture. When you're selling these, that's how you got to pitch them. This isn't a window anymore. Okay, number one, they're very, very expensive. But because they project out of your house, it opens up the room that you're in tremendously. Okay, it adds a lot of square footage that you wouldn't realize was there. It adds a lot of light. People like to put their decorations and shit in there. Sometimes the dogs and the cats like to sit in there and everything else. It is a piece of furniture. They're very expensive, but it will really make a huge difference to that room. Okay, curb appeal on the front of the house or whatever is huge, but that's for your neighbors to see. You've seen those houses like in Sterling Heights or whatever, where they have, you walk in the door and to the left is like a dining room area. And then you go back into the kitchen, back off to the, into the right, and then the bedrooms and stuff are back there. How many people actually use that dining room area?
10%. Like no one.
At least for a formal dining room. Some of them put it into their
Yeah,
family room or something, but usually that's in the back.
They usually have a kitchen table like in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm. So what happens is you got Thanksgiving and you got fucking Christmas is when that's used. To spend $5,000 to put a bay window in the front of your house for you to enjoy it 2 times out of the year, upgrade the glass and get the triple pane and save yourself energy. Because otherwise you're putting on a bay window for all your neighbors to enjoy. Okay? Have that conversation with the customer. I'm not saying take them away from it, but I put one in my old house or whatever and I never looked at it. And it was a fucking monster of one and everything else. And it's beautiful, don't get me wrong.
Do those only come in single pane?
No, you can get them in triple pane too. I'm just saying to spend, instead of putting in a regular picture window and then slider that looks like a bay, it's flat across the front and everything else. Okay, I can spend $1,500, $2,000 on this window, or I can spend $5,000 or $6,000 on a bay window. I'd rather take that extra $3,000 or $4,000 and upgrade the glass for all of my windows and get the better if it's a financial thing. You know what I'm saying? So you'll save money going the other route. The other thing, your neighbors are going to enjoy your bay, not so much you. They are gorgeous, don't get me wrong. Okay, and I'm not trying to tell you not to sell bay and bowl windows, but that's something too. You have that conversation with your customer. All right. Now the difference between a bay or bowl window, both of them project out. The bays are flat across the front. The bays come in 3 units, 3 lights. The lights are each unit of glass. Not how many panes of glass, but how many sections. Here is a 2-light slider. Here is a 3-light end vent slider. There's 3 sections. Here's a 3-light bay. Okay, it's not a physical light. I sold some lady down in fucking Taylor a bay window, and I put on the contract or whatever, and it said bay window and how many lights. I wrote 3 on there and everything. And did it need a roof? Yes. And I asked all the basic questions. And she expected when the install, she's like, Dave, this is bullshit. You said I was getting 3 lights with my window. She expected 3 lights above her window or whatever, because the picture I happened to show her had those like push lights
Oh my god.
in the thing, and she thought that's what I was putting. She goes, it's on the contract. So I went up to Home Depot and I got 3 little push lights and glued them to the top floor. She was cool with that, but it was just like, it's the units of glass. It's spelled differently. It's not, each section. Now, a bow window typically will have 4 or 5 of those lights. Okay? The way I remember it is a bow versus a bay. A bow is more rounded because of the different units of glass, and they're all equal. All right? It's more like a bow and arrow because it's rounded. Where this is just a bay, it's flat across the front. Think bow and arrow for the bow, more curved. Okay? Again, they both project out of the house. You need to make sure that you have to check the outside, the overhang. All right, if it's got an overhang of 18 inches or greater, we're good. We can just basically, because of the projection of that window, we know it's not going to go out any further than that. Then we'll take aluminum and then we can wrap the top to cover everything. Because otherwise you're going to have a spot above your bay window. This is your bay window here. And here's your soffit. We got to cover all of this area right here. Because when inside of the actual unit itself are elevator cables that ride into this, and they get mounted straight to your roof joists. So right underneath your soffit and everything. So that all has to be covered up. So if you don't have a large enough overhang, they'll build a roof of aluminum to kind of cover up those cables and tie it into the roof, or they'll just take the aluminum coil and they'll roll it around just to bridge this little gap. And I'll show you some pictures of how it looks too, but then it covers it up there. So that's something extra you might have to charge for. All right. When I get into the pictures too, you'll notice for the bays and bows, even though they're vinyl, the seat, the header, and then the jamb that it sticks out, the inside jamb, will all come in an unfinished birch. All right, you can upgrade to oak, but it does come standard with an unfinished birch that the customer is responsible for paying their statement. I've seen some cases where people have had granite cut out, and then they'll slide in a granite piece or something like that for the seat, but it's completely preference. Now, typically, and this is something, I'm glad we're having this conversation, the ends on your bay or bow, typically they come standard with a crank casement. Okay, and it'll look just like this. There's no dividers or nothing like that in there. You can get double hungs on the ends. So throwing one of these on each one of the ends.
Is that cheaper?
So they go up and down. There's no cost difference. It's just preference. Typically, if they got hungs throughout the rest of the house and that bay window, I'll probably throw hungs in the end. But it's such a different window that it's okay to go with the casements there. It's not gonna throw off the whole look of your house and go, well, he's got hungs everywhere, and you want casements there? Because it's something completely separate, it's a different focal point, okay? But if you had sliders throughout the rest of your house or, you know, whatever, and then to go with double hungs on the end, that might look a little funky. All right, you, I think, sold a couple bay windows and stuff, and you gotta make sure you guys specify on the contract, are the ends hungs or are they casements? So
Yeah, there's actually a spot in the contract that say ends.
Right, and then, yeah, you would either
Double
put
hung
your
casement.
DH for double hung, or you put CSMT for casement.
So they do have some options here, 30 degree and 45 degree. Do you always want to do 45? Or?
Usually, I mean, it depends on how wide and what the customer is. They may have a porch, and if they go with a lighter degree, a 30 degree, it's not gonna
It doesn't come out
project
as far.
out as far,
Okay.
where the 45 is gonna pop out a little bit more.
Okay.
You know, because you got to consider that too. If it's they got a big patio or porch out front, do they got chairs there? Do they use it as like a sitting area or something like that? Because this is going to stick out of the house for quite a bit.
It also asks for wall thickness. Is that just the actual thickness of the wall that we're supposed to be?
That's the
using?
jam. I mean, when you guys put it in, you can pick. I think the wall thickness is generally 6 inches. You got your
Yeah.
2x4, and then you got your little bit of drywall and your, on that end. But that's something more when my installer measures it for ordering purposes. I need to go. It's not really going to change your pricing much in there.
Okay.
That's for because once you guys put everything. What's nice about the computer program, once you put in all your measurements and the specs of it all, I just go through and verify the measurement from what I get from my installer. Everything else, you guys basically created that order. And then I just hit the order button and we're set. So, I mean, we're gonna double check things like that, but like the glass, what type of glass it is, the coloring and stuff. You gotta make sure you're putting that in as the window obscured, which means it has that frosted tint to it before, instead of opening and closing.
Insulated seat board.
So, okay, I'm glad you're looking at that option too. The insulated seat, I mentioned your seat and your header are all unfinished birch. So your seat is basically just that piece of plywood. So anytime you're selling a bay or bow window, add the insulated seat. I think I'm gonna have them set that up as a default,
Yeah, because there's also a double option too, double insulated seat.
because they'll get very cold, even though you upgraded the glass or whatever. If you're just talking about a 3/4 inch, OSB board or something like that, it's not insulated. So always include an insulated seat with it.
And then edge banding.
No idea what that is.
Yeah, okay.
I'll have to look.
Yeah.
That's where they band the edges.
There you go. Knows what's going on there. All right. So your bays and your bows, the insulated seat. I'm glad you mentioned that. You got to specify if the ends are going to be casements or the double hungs. Make sure that that's clear. You have to measure the overhang. Take pictures of the overhang. All right. We got to see what's going on. Typically, have you ever seen like a bay or a bow window that's sticking out of the house? Okay. So here's your wall and everything, and they got those little braces at the bottom to kind of support it. Typically, when you see that, means that they're installed improperly. Okay, and I want to say, I would guess to say about 90% of the time that's what it means, because the installer is relying on this brace to add extra support so it doesn't cave in. That's where like a lot of your Andersons and stuff like that, when you go in at, behind them, I go, yeah, I've had this Anderson, it's leaking. Well, what happens is they're relying on these things are fucking heavy. All right, if you've ever lifted one of these up or whatever, I mean, it'd take like everybody in this room to lift some of these. All right, but it starts to drop like your gutter would, starts to drop and it pulls away and then the water gets behind there and that's typically where it'll start leaking. Well, the way we do it, as I mentioned, we got the elevator cables and we actually strap the cables to the house, to the roofing line. So we're not relying on this stuff for any type of support. Sometimes people will put them on there because they cosmetically, they like the way it looks. So I'd never go in there and say, oh, your neighbor's is done wrong or yours was done wrong. And my grandpa did it back in the day. And, you don't want to insult them and just say, typically when you see those, that means they were done wrong because they're relying on those for support. And you shouldn't, okay? Because you should be strapping the elevator cable straight up into your roof joists and everything else for the proper support on, all right? But we can do them if they want to. You got to take pictures, guys, of the outside of these as well. We had one where it was set up, I can't even draw it out, kind of like this one here, and it had like a skirting underneath, kind of like a roof, but like a roof on the bottom of it, to hide these supports that were down there. And it came through, and this was all stonework that went all the way around this fucking thing. And so when we removed this window, the stone was coming, because it was all cemented in, and luckily Phil's been doing this for 25 years and managed how to do it, but that was when our old installer was here and measured it originally. And then he bailed on us and knew that job was coming up. And yeah, he bit off more than he could chew on it. And so he was freaking out. Luckily, Phil worked his magic and got it in there for us. But the more pictures you got, the better. Okay? Also, too, a couple things that we can get into, and I'm not even gonna have time to get into the pitch, but, you got a window like that. Customer wants to put in a patio door. Big sliding glass door. We can actually cut down, reinforce that whole buck, all right? And then put in a sliding glass door there. We don't do any of the detailed finish work. We're not gonna paint or stain, but we can do like rough drywall and things. 'Cause
I was asking you about that, and you said, well, we'll cut brick out for that? No shit?
Yeah, we can cut the brick out. Now, one thing on
Now,
the cutouts,
Clyde has to come back, right? And someone has to come back, no?
just our window guy. Our window guy is more capable of cutting it all down and doing everything that we need to. If we need to put in a limestone sill now at the bottom, we can do all of that stuff. But you gotta check, you gotta make sure that there's no electrical outlet where we're doing the cutting. Cause then we gotta bring in an electrician to move it over 3 feet. Check the outside, see if there's any water spigots for a hose. Their air conditioning unit may be right there out the door. So it looks great right now because you can't see it, but the minute you make a cut, you got a 4-foot air conditioning unit. It's like, well, if I would have realized that that thing was there, I didn't think about that beforehand. I wouldn't have made the cut.
And that goes for the bay windows as well.
Mhm.
Like if there's not an existing one, we can actually.
Yep, you can cut,
What's
cut a fresh hole in the
What's the
wall.
price of cutting the brick out? And you said $1,000.
I think it's like $1,200 or $1,500. I'll have to double check it. It's in the computer now.
Yeah, I think it was 9. I thought it was in there to add.
Rock solid installation. Loading, 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 loading,
Where do you find that stuff?
That's all on
loading.
the window.
So-
Cut out and frame is $1,200. Cut out and brick is $1,650. And I'll have those, I don't know if those are updated in there yet, we just got some pricing, new pricing and stuff, but we're capable of doing it, that's the bottom line. Okay, yes, you have to charge for it, it's a lot of, detailed work and stuff, but, we can do it. We can cut a side, so you can make a small little window, could just cut the side of it, make it a lot larger to extend it. You can do just a cut down, you can cut a brand new opening, that one that's not existingly there. So there's a lot of different things with windows we can do these cuts on. It's beautiful. You can open it up. I did one where I put my bay window in my old house or whatever. I had a fireplace in the middle of my dining area or living room area, and it was so dark, so I cut in 2 big windows on the sides, put in some casements there, added so much light. I mean, it was night and day. So that's a big thing. We're not gonna, cut it in the ceiling and shit like that. I guess that would be with the roof and the skylight, but for the windows, we can do that. Now we can also do a fill-in. So if you had a patio door, you could build it up to put in a regular window, and then at that point, we would have to put siding, some sort of siding on the exterior. A lot of times they'll do like a vertical soffit or something to fill that area. You could do a stone, something. I mean, what you don't want to really do is try to match the siding that's there, because it'll be boxed in with J-channel and stuff, unless we do that whole back wall or the rest of the house. If we're doing siding on the whole house, no problem. Okay, but you got to remember that it's going to look a little bit different, so don't try to color match. The shit's been faded. You could do some cedar shake in there, and don't match it. Obviously, they bring attention to it and accent it at that point.
I had the customer pick out the color for the replacement siding, and when they came and brought it to the site, he was bitching because it wasn't the same color. I was like, you picked the color. I didn't pick it for you. You picked it. He was pissed.
On the interior, we'll put all the studs and everything else because we have to build it up and build the buck and everything around it. So we'll put the studs. We'll hand pack insulation, the Pink Panther rolled stuff. And then we'll put drywall on there, we'll mud and tape it, but they're responsible of doing the sanding and painting and all that stuff. We'll do the basic shit, get it all set up, but the finishing work they're gonna be responsible for. Okay? Window sills, we can replace window sills. Alright? They come in either wood or they come in a marble light. Which is a composite marble, it's not real marble. That shit would be outrageously expensive. The wood, they come unfinished pine. If you're selling them like an oak or something like that, you can upgrade to an oak sill on there, so therefore the stain and stuff when they do it, but they're responsible for painting or staining. All right, most people will go with the marble light, which you can get. We have to pick out the color. It's either white on white, brown on white, or black on white. And all it is a white base with a white marble swirl in it, or a black marble swirl in it, or a brown marble swirl, but it's all a white base. All right, and then when it asks you the size of it, it's not the width. Okay, a lot of people put, 58 inches. No, we know that from the window. It's the depth. How far from the window does it stick out? Are you putting in a 3-inch sill, 4-inch, 5-inch, 6-inch, 8-inch? All right, specify that on the contract and what you're doing and what color it is. We don't very often run into those, at least here we haven't. But, you know, it is something that we're capable of doing. Gotta make sure if they got alarm systems on their windows. Note it. Is it an active system? Is it not? If it's not active, okay, we can bury the line inside of the wall when we get it. If it's active, we'll leave the wires out, we'll install the window, but they're responsible for having their alarm company come on. Okay, with too much liability, if somebody breaks in and the alarm didn't go off, now it's on us. We don't deal with anything like that. So just ask them, hey, I noticed an alarm system, make a note on the measure sheet, and then therefore we can figure out, you know, if we're gonna leave it out or if we're just gonna bury it. Security bars. Detroit, okay, a couple of these other cities and stuff like that, you might notice there's some bars and stuff on there. There's special equipment, special installers, they need these special tools in order to remove them, so they can get to the windows and things. It's not an extra charge for it, but we just need to know to make sure that we're sending out the right crew. But we'll remove those, we can install the window, and then the customer can either, you know, have us reinstall them, or we can just get rid of them.
What about the roll down shutters? The security, like you have the bars, but then they have like an aluminum roll down.
Usually those are outside of the pocket, so those usually if they're rolled up, we can get in there and we don't, they're not an issue from it.
Okay.
Take pictures of.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, if it's inside of the jam, inside from brick to brick, and it's, you know, actually in there, that might be a different story. We'll have to take a look at the pictures and, you know, when in doubt, charge it up. If you think something on it, I would throw $200 on their extra window, and then we can always refund it back later. You know, versus coming back and say, oh yeah, it's gonna be, you know, an extra $1,500 because you got 8 windows. You charge them that. All right. That's the basics, guys, of the windows. I mean, some of you guys already knew that, some of you didn't. Tomorrow we'll go through, I'm not gonna book too many 9s, and we'll go through the glass presentation and how to get through that, depending on how our schedule looks like today. I don't know, maybe we'll squeeze it in, but, you guys have any questions on windows? I mean, the styles and shit, like, we can do architectural windows, so we can do circles, half rounds, octagons, trapezoids, triangles.
So there are a lot of limitations that I did not realize when we were doing Plygym, but when you go to Sunrise, because there's a program in it and you go to put it in there and it says, hey, we can't do that. So like one of the big ones, I have a couple of bigger jobs that were all kinds of crazy different window ranges, but like they want triple pane, but only, let's say, half of the windows in the house actually can be triple pane because of the weight of it. You know, that's just something, I guess, because you don't want to mix, do you? Double pane and triple pane?
No,
There's a
if you
color
can
difference?
avoid it, because you can see a slight difference if you look in the camera, dude.
I'm sorry.
There is something, like, if you were side by side with them, you would see a slightly different tint in the glass, because that third pane of glass is gonna be a little bit darker, you know, than the others, so yeah, you don't necessarily wanna do that. But you should, before you go through, and there is a catalog that's on there, Brian, I don't know if you've seen it, where it has the specs on it, and basically it's just a big spreadsheet, it's got all the numbers, the widths and the height, but as you go through that spreadsheet, it has like a step line that comes up, and if the sizes fall in this area over here, that's not a triple pane alarm.
Okay.
But everything in this section is. So you can go into double hungs and stuff like that and kind of look, and it would be,
This?
no, I'll show you guys in a little bit, but it'll be, it's only gonna be for your really large windows. So if you got some really crazy, outrageously big window, double check that first, that size, before you really start hitting your presentation hard. You know, and then you know if you should really be smashing, you know, hey, we gotta get you into the triple pane, or can we get you into like the double low E with Krypton or some shit.
Fiber beam meeting rail, and then the fiber beam sash style. So the meeting rail is the horizontal, the sash styles are the vertical. Because
The sashes are on the actual sash itself. That's with the window, like that you would be pulling out.
yeah. So that, but that's the fiber beam. That's when they reinforce it with the fiberglass on the inside. Brick mold. That just means that the window's going around brick, right?
No, that's a special order brick mold or whatever that's gonna be coming in with the window. So the window can be built with that brick mold on it. Instead of doing aluminum trim, it can come with the brick mold, and as long as it's measured properly, it can slide right in from brick to brick,
Okay.
and then it wouldn't have to be trimmed out.
So when would I select that option?
You don't.
Oh, okay, okay. Welded nail flange with J channel. Okay.
Not gonna get into any of that.
okay.
Some of them are for new construction and stuff on there. Some of them options I can have them eliminate.
Yeah,
We're getting into them because all it's gonna do is confuse you, like you're looking at.
yeah. It's like
Should I check
no,
it, should I not?
yeah, like no header expansion, no sill angle, polyfoam wrap, nailing fin.
Yeah, none of that stuff. The only thing you really gotta worry about is the color,
Okay.
okay, and the glass type. Is it obscured? Is it not obscured? If you get grids, if it's gotta be tempered. Okay, like the framing options and stuff, you don't have to worry about any of that.
Okay. Then yeah, that's about it then.
Insulated, that's to insulate, does that insulate and reinforce the frame?
Yes, the insulation does.
That does
Yeah.
do both, okay, it does give you the fiberglass.
It actually reinforces it more than it insulates. Believe it or not, but.
I always do those three options. I do the fiber beam, meeting rail fiber beam, sash styles, and multi-core insulated frame. I always do it. I don't offer it without it. Because if it's gonna blow or something 5 years from now, that's gonna come back on us. So
And you guys notice, if you click it, you click it on and off.
It is hollow frames.
Yeah.
It says right on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, try to push the essentials if it's the preferred,
Hmm.
you know, because that shit is, it's a lot cheaper to get than that, but
About half.
can be.
Yeah, easily.
But you can't get the triple paint and stuff on it,
No.
so. But I think what we'll do is we'll offer the essentials as our package one, just gutted, because it's so cheap. And then we'll go into the Sunrise without the insulation, without the reinforcements, just the low E-glass on that. And then the Platinum is with all the bells and whistles. All right,